Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we're going to be taking our usual broad look across the DMV landscape. We have to start with history. That's right, history that we've been tracking all season long has finally been made in the nation's capital. We all know who it was. Alex Ovechkin finally getting 895. We're going to talk about the significance of that. We're also going to talk about all of the great things that happened for the Caps this week. A lot happened, and, they're in great position going into the playoffs, but I would like to see us start winning some more games. Let's stop losing them. We are also going to do our official seasonal send-off for the Wizards. Yes, I know there's one game tomorrow, but let's be real. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The season's done. We're just going to wrap it up, put a little bow on it, and send them to the off season. We also have to, of course, take a look at the week that was for the Orioles and the Nationals. I was about ready to just give up on the Orioles today, but they did pull it out today. And the Nationals winning a series against the Dodgers? Is this team ahead of schedule? Did we jump off the bandwagon too soon? It is entirely possible that we did. And we are going to, of course, have our draft segment this week covering the WNBA draft, where the Mystics have a lot of picks and a lot of needs. We're going to take a look at where the roster currently stands, and we're going to take a look at where their picks lie and which players who I would prefer them to draft to fulfill their needs. All while continuing our Midwestern theme with, well, let's just call it a funky beer right here. I think you guys can get excited just by the look of the can. We've got all that and more coming up on Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed, all that is sports. We're going to hear a quick word about our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Mind About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky that's on a whole nother planet. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Also, Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but donates and supports mental health research. So use code IESR when you make your purchase to get 15% off and continue to support them on their journey to support mental health research. Also, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, custom wax seals by Cecilia B. Perfect added touch for any fancy occasion, be it a wedding, fancy party, birthday, baby shower, all of the above and more. So do check them out at Seal the Deal _wax stamps on Instagram. And our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Get rawnutrition.com. They've got a whole bunch of different stuff, not just your basic proteins and stuff. They've got all different nutrients for all of your different health needs, no matter where you are in your health journey. So go to getrawnutrition.com, use promo code IESR to get 10% off your purchase today. And if you have not done so already, please follow yours truly at Let's Wine _IESR. And if you are a supporter of the show, if you're a big fan of the show or a fan of any of the shows here on our network or a fan of the network in general, do go to our supporters club via Spreaker. Just $5 a month gets you a whole bunch of perks on different shows. Here we would feature your favorite DMV team, DMV team, as well as your favorite beverage, favorite type of beverage, favorite style of beverage, whatever it may be. We will highlight that for you, give you a shout out, all that jazz. And different shows have different perks as well. So once again, join the Supporters Club. And whether you're listening live tonight or listening later on in the week, whatever it may be, all of your support is greatly appreciated. We could not do this without you. Before we jump into the sports, we have a couple of chat room visitors here. Taryn Rodriguez, good evening to you as well, sir. Thank you for the wishes. Adam Karnick, hello, Mike. What wine is appropriate to celebrate Ovechkin? Champagne. Champagne's always appropriate to celebrate anything. We're not doing a champagne tonight, but definitely, if I were to just pick one off of the top of my head, I would most certainly do so. Larry B jumping in. It's an IPA kind of night for us at the Storm. Well, it's about to be an IPA night for us as well. And then he said, "Are you? Oh, different background. No, I'm actually literally in the exact same place. I just shifted the angle of my screen so that you all didn't have to see my whole living room. So, no, I'm not on the road. Just trying out a little different look here, so that you guys didn't have a direct shot into whatever the heck was going on in my living room behind me. I do need to work on getting some artwork though." Right here, maybe like a Redskins banner and a Ravens banner for football season, or perhaps a Caps. Definitely not the Wizards. Mystics, I could put the Mystics up here. Something like that. We, of course, have a lot of great sports news to get to, but first we must go to our beverage. We are in the middle of Midwest Beverage Month, and Adam Karnick in the chat room, the host of Chi-Town Weekly, this one goes out to you because we are going to the great state of Illinois, Chicago, specifically to Washington football team, Commanders. Just a big W behind me. Maybe that would work. Because I mean, actually, a W work because that's the Commanders use a W and the Nationals use the curly W. So maybe just a big W behind me would work. But in any case, Adam, this one is for you. This is Goose Island out of Chicago, Illinois. Now, Goose Island is a beer. Now, they have their flagship beers. They have their staples, as every brewery does. But they are most well known, I would say, for their special release items. Every Thanksgiving they release, and I've reviewed it a couple of different times here on the show, the Goose Island Bourbon County IPA, or Bourbon County Stout, which is a bourbon barrel aged stout, and they do a whole bunch of different variations. This is also not one of their standard flagship beers, but yep, I knew you would appreciate it. But this is one that I do find commonly in the area. This is their tropical beer hug. You can see the absolute silliness that is this can. It is an Imperial IPA, which means they do a little bit extra in the brewing process. And look at that. Look at that right here. So why we need to pay attention to our ABVs, folks, when we're getting our beers. 9.9%, basically 10% ABV in this beer. You're at wine levels at that point. Let's see if this has any other details on it. It calls itself a beach vacation for your taste buds. We will, of course, judge that on our own. But yeah, if you go to Goose Island Beer Company, I believe they have a website. Yeah, gooseisland.com. You'll find all sorts of different specialty release beverages. You'll find their Bourbon County releases. It's a very interesting beer, Bourbon County is, because you can age it. I would not recommend aging this IPA, although heck, with 10%, you never know. Let's get a nice little pour going. Come on. Okay, we got a little bit ahead there at the end there, a little bit there. So looking at the surface, does it look particularly different? In fact, it's an incredibly clear IPA. I think you can even see on the screen. You can see right through that. You can see me right through that. So it's an incredibly clear, well-filtered IPA. The color, very straw pale golden here, as you can see. Give it a sniff. Smells like an IPA. It's got that hoppy, piney smell to it. There's no mistaking that. A little bit of a citrusy note there as well. Maybe that's the tropical coming in. Let's see if there's any notes about the fruit flavors here. Let's see. Born in Chicago in 1988, Imperial IPA. No, there's no other notes about the fruit flavors we got going on. So let's take a look. Adam Karnick with a good point. Looks more like I would agree with you, Adam. I would say, yeah, that does look a lot like a pale lager here, but I can tell you from the smell, it is not a lager for sure, but it's all about the taste. So let's give it a taste. So it's got kind of that typical Imperial IPA pop that we've been discussing. The Imperial IPAs or the double IPAs, the ones that are fermented longer, you lose that upfront hoppy punch that you typically get from a traditional IPA, and it's replaced with a more kind of richer, maltier, roasted flavor in there. It's a lot more evenly balanced than your typical IPA because you don't really get that pininess from the hops. This does not explode with tropical flavor. It's mostly just kind of that citrusy, almost tastes kind of orangey flavor on it. It's not a bad beer by any sense of the imagination, but of course, reminder with that right there, that 9.9%. Oh, let me get it out of the light there. There we go. Please drink this one very carefully. One like this will be more than enough. This is 12-ounce can, very simple, basic. By the way, this is the equivalent of 2.5 glasses of wine, which is basically about, with the alcohol content, kind of the equivalent of what you're drinking here. So do be careful when drinking beer such as this. But it's very nice. It's got that rich flavor to it. It's an IPA for people that don't love IPAs. If you're okay with IPAs, you kind of like them, but you really don't love that hoppy, piney kick that they give you right off of the front of the palate, then this one is much more appropriate for you because it does not have that. The finish is also very easy. It leaves you with a little bit of dryness in the back of your mouth, but nothing overly powerful, nothing to write home about. So Goose Island, great brewery out of Chicago. I've enjoyed many of their products over the years. They're very popular. Adam Karnick gave them a good vote of confidence. I would have gone with a Bourbon County, but those things are like I couldn't find an original. I could only find one of the specialty ones, and those are about $25 per 16.9 ounce bottle, which is only a little bit more than that. So I went with the Tropical Beer Hug instead, a little bit more affordable for the pocketbook. We will be continuing our Midwest tour for the next few weeks. Ohio and Wisconsin proved a little bit challenging. Great Lakes is the main one out of Ohio that's distributed nationally. They do have a lot of good breweries, but a lot of them are much more local. I imagine as the equivalency of what it would be for North Carolina. And same with Wisconsin. Leinenkugels is their big one, but if for some reason in North Carolina you can only find a summer shandy regularly on the shelves, and that's not out yet. So unfortunately, we won't get a good Wisconsin representative. And in terms of Ohio, a lot of their stuff's in short supply. They're another one, kind of like Goose Island. They do their specialty release beers, and there's just not a ton out right now. Now, Michigan, as a distressor to the rest of you Midwestians, does have a lot of readily available year-round beer, so we will get a heavy dose of Michigan to represent the Midwest here over the next couple of weeks. Before we have our first break, we have to jump into the biggest news of the DMV this past week. The record watch is over. No more Ovechkin record watch. No more tracking the goals. It is done. Ovechkin, actually, the day after my last show, got goal 895 on a power play from his office, which is the left circle relative to the goal. It could not have happened any more perfectly. Dylan Strome and Tom Wilson were the two assist men on it. Just absolutely fantastic. So congratulations to Ovechkin. It is very unique for a Washington athlete, a DC athlete, to own a record, a career record. So this is great to see. And yeah, no, it just means a lot for the city. I'm sure it means a lot for Ovechkin and his family, means a lot for the team. But the work's not over yet because, well, the Caps also clinched the division and the best record in the Eastern Conference this past week. So a lot happened in a very rapid time frame. And it wasn't even necessarily because the Caps were doing all that great, because the Caps are only 4-5-1 in their last 10 games. But it was because the other teams in the East, namely the Maple Leafs and the Hurricanes, while doing well, they're still doing great, just could not quite get on the type of roll they needed to go on in order to oust the Caps. So the Caps will have the best record in the Eastern Conference. They will have the number one seed in the playoffs. Now, what does that mean? Well, for the rest of the season, I expect them to be resting guys. A large portion of their roster was healthy most of the season. So a lot of those guys, I think 13 of the top 18 forwards and defenders played at least 75 games. So getting some rest for some guys. I know Ovechkin had the day off today, but also trying to get some momentum back. Like I said, the team's only 4-5-1 in their last 10. They've got 3 games to go. Not impossible games. They've got the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are fighting for their life to get that last playoff spot in the East. So the only team with a realistic chance to catch Montreal for the 8th seed. And then they also have the Rangers and the Penguins, who are out of the playoffs, but 2 teams with a rivalry with the Caps that wouldn't mind playing a little bit of spoiler as things wrap up. Now, the likely playoff matchups, it's looking like, unless something absolutely absurd happens, most of the East is out. Buffalo, Boston, both the New York City teams, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So the state of New York and the state of Pennsylvania will be sitting out the playoffs altogether. The Canadians currently hold the 8th seed. I sincerely doubt they catch Ottawa, who is the 7th seed, who looks like they are headed towards a matchup. Well, actually, that's a lie, because Toronto, Tampa, and Florida are all neck and neck there at the top of the Atlantic Conference, so the division. So that's not set in stone yet who the 2 seed will be in the East. But they'll head for whoever that may be. And then Montreal sits 4 points ahead of the Blue Jackets, who, like I said, are fighting and clawing and doing everything they can to try to get that last playoff spot in the East. And then the Red Wings are still mathematically in it, but it would honestly take a miracle. They would need to win out. Montreal would need to lose out, and I'm sure there might even be more than that in order to get them in. So I don't think the Red Wings are going to do it. Columbus, I could see doing it, but it's either Montreal or Columbus for the Caps in the first round. Neither team's had an extraordinary season. In fact, if you add their regulation losses to their overtime losses, they actually have losing records. But in any case, Montreal 6-4 in their last 10, so is Columbus. So both teams have a little bit of a head of steam entering the playoffs, and that cannot be understated. But yes, what to watch for in the last 3 games. Let's get a couple more wins on the board. Let's get a little bit of momentum going in, and also let's make sure we're healthy for the playoff run. Health is going to be the biggest key, in my opinion, over the past week. Season wraps up on Wednesday or Thursday. I can double check this. Hang on 1 second. It wraps up on Thursday, April 17th is the last game, which I'm assuming means that the playoffs will start the following Monday. So we'll know exactly where we are next week for the Caps. That will do it for the first part of our show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the Wizards season, who are, well, not making the playoffs. So do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr. I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are jumping into basketball. Battling it out for the worst spot in the league. Now they are tied. They've been going back and forth, and now it is a tie coming down into the final games. It doesn't impact their odds in the top four. What it does do is the team that finishes second has a chance of finishing sixth. Now, I haven't looked back through the records in detail, but I don't know if the team that has finished with the second worst lottery odds has ever ended up with the sixth overall pick, because what that would mean is that both them and the number one seed both completely missed on the lottery altogether, which would be rather wild to see for four teams to jump them and win the ping pong ball battle. But that is something to be determined in the month of May, I believe, not in right now. So we're just going to go ahead. Yes, there's one game left in the season. Yes, it's tomorrow against the Miami Heat. No, in the end, it does not really matter. The season is basically over. So season wrap up. Now, overall, independent of the results, the team actually got two games better. Last year, they were 15-67. This year, they'll either be 17-65 or 18-64, whichever one suits their fancy, although Miami is battling for a playoff spot. So I sincerely doubt that they're just going to lay down and not bring their best for that. Well, they're not battling for a playoff spot. They're battling for playoff seeding, which I believe in the East here, as we take a quick look at it, it's only the difference really of them potentially getting a home game in the 9 versus 10 slot versus a road game. So they can't go up much further than that. So maybe they won't bring their A game. Maybe they'll bring their B or their B minus game. Who knows? But in any case, let's start with some awards for the season. MVP, this one's easy, cakewalk. Jordan Poole, who led the team in scoring and assists, 20.5 points per game, 4.5 assists, 1.3 steals, while shooting 38% from three. He was by far the most prolific three-point shooter on the team. Also shot really well from the free throw line. But not only for his performance on the court, but when you looked at him off the court, looked at him with all of this young talent on this team, he really accepted kind of a leadership mentor role for this group. Early easy once he had that big $35 million a year contract extension. But he definitely has a vibe, a connection with the young players. And it makes me want to keep him here long term as that veteran linchpin to a young team that has four rookie first rounders from this past draft, thanks to the trade for AJ Johnson. Plus, we'll be getting a very likely top 5 pick added to that group. So, Jordan Poole, MVP, and also to me, keeping himself locked in as a piece for the team for the foreseeable future. He's the only one of the veterans really under contract after next year. They do have some one-year deals to look at with some of the vets, like who they got at the trade deadline, like Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart. Also, backup center Rashawn Holmes has one more year. But really, that's it. The rest of it's young guys who are battling it out to get better every day. Most improved player forward Justin Champagny, a guy who kind of came out of nowhere for this team to produce. He actually started 30, likely 31 games, so will likely get the start tomorrow. Averaged 8.5 points, 5.7 rebounds, shot 50% from the field, even shot 37.5% from three, and provided good defense as a forward wing, which earned him a contract extension with the team after starting as a two-way player. What an incredible find, too, just, to have this guy waltz in on a two-way deal and have him actually be a meaningful contributor. Now, moving forward and over the rest of his contract in particular, I would prefer it if he was not getting, how many minutes did he get per game? Oh, 21. 21 is fine, but he was getting a lot of 30 plus minute games. I don't think a playoff team is going to have a Justin Champagny playing 30 to 35 minutes a game, but somewhere in the 15 to 20 minute game range off the bench. Maybe not as one of your top three bench guys, but maybe in that next three category that I like to kind of break teams up. You've got your starting five, you've got your top bench, your mid bench, and your bottom bench. And 3 to 4 guys per row, there's 10 total. So a middle bench guy, I think Champagny is great fit for. But yes, very good performance by him, surprising performance, but definitely one that deserves some admiration. Only turns 24 in June, so he's still kind of a youngin in his own right as well. Although with the lineups they've been marching out recently, he's actually the veteran of some of the recent starting fives. Biggest disappointment could be the lottery. With the way the new lottery is set up, as we've been discussing, it's a crapshoot. It really is, guys. And so, we talk about, there's a lot of, bickering back and forth. Oh, we should tank it to try to get number one. Well, the number one team's never won it. The two team has at least won it twice, so I don't. We'll see. We'll see. But, in a season where expectations were low, they met those expectations, and everybody who could have done anything got traded and got returned. I can't say, Kyle Kuzma's the easiest answer, but the trade got us some draft capital and AJ Johnson. And plus Chris Middleton, who might become a piece that they flip in the offseason to try to get other veteran help in here. So, you never know. So can't say any of the players were the biggest disappointment. You could probably argue coaching might have been considered the biggest disappointment here. Injuries, perhaps. The fact that we didn't get to see guys like Sadiq Bey all year, or the fact that Jordan Poole did miss a portion of the season, or, Corey Kispert. You could argue maybe Kispert would be the biggest disappointment. But to me, none of it matters because the goal was to not really be that competitive, and they achieved that goal. So there you go. Best takeaway, the rookies have a bright future. All three of the first rounders who they drafted, Sarr, Carrington, and George, if you look at their stats on the season as a whole, it doesn't look that impressive. It really doesn't. But if you look at, kind of individual performances and how they progressed, you will see a group that got better as the season went on, and that has the potential to be a very strong group overall. Alex Sarr, 13 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1.5 blocks. The shooting wasn't really there consistently, but the defensive presence was there, and he'll only get better. Bilal Coulibaly, wait, no, he's not a rookie, although he did have 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.3 steals. So, shout out to Coulibaly. Where the above Carrington, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So a well-rounded stat line for him. Shot 34% from 3, which is not bad. And then Kaishan George, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 1 steal. He showed out great on the defensive end as well. Also, the first team in NBA history with 3 players to shoot 100 threes in a season. Alex Sarr was the youngest player this year to reach 100 blocks on the season. So some impressive stats overall. And then A.J. Johnson, the arrival of him midseason, he shows up and averages 9 points and 3 assists and had some absolutely bananas performances here and there. So the rookies have a bright future, and they're going to be adding another bright one to them. Plus, you've got Koulibaly. Plus, you've got Champagny, led by Jordan Poole. There's a lot to be excited about moving forward. There's just going to have to be a little bit of patience for everybody to get to the level they need to get to. So for the offseason preview, what does this team need to do? Well, they need to get some luck in the lottery. That's completely out of their hands. I would like to see them. Now, there's been some debate amongst the fan base, amongst Wizards Twitter, all 15 of us at this point, about the team's draft pick next year. So obviously, their current draft pick is technically a protected pick from a trade with the New York Knicks. It was top 10 protected. Now, of course, they're going to keep it. No debate there. But next year, it's top 8 protected. And the debate has been whether the team should continue the tank, continue the methodology here to keep that pick for what is apparently supposed to be another very good draft class in 2026, or do you accept the inevitability of guys like Sarr, Carrington, Johnson, and George improving? Maybe you get Sadiq Bey back healthy. Hopefully, you get a full season of Jordan Poole. Well, he played 68 games, so it's pretty good. Pretty good there. Hopefully, you get a full season of Bilal Koulibaly. Hopefully, you get a full season of Corey Kispert. Both of those guys missed 20 plus games. Hopefully, do you continue the tank, or do you do the math and realize that, unless you get the same bad luck with injuries and then the same performance from your rookies, who theoretically should be better, plus you add in this top 5 pick, whoever that may be, and he has a minimal impact, you accept the fact that top 8 might be tough next year. I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff teams by any means, but I mean, they could be a play-in team without an incredible amount of improvement, especially in the East, where the last play-in team is going to be a 37 to 38 win Miami team. You got to think that there could be improvement there. You got to think that other teams are going to hit the tank button again, maybe hit it hard. So you wonder if it isn't worth it, given the progression of the rookies, given the progression of some of the vets, how every piece is starting to fit together here, that if you were to pull off a big trade, which this team is not known for, they're known for trading big name players away, but you've got these 2 very tradable, very appealing 1-year deals in Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart that add up to a max contract. Do you go to a Phoenix who is in complete disarray and try to swing a big one for one of their guys? Do you give a call to Denver, who just fired their head coach and kind of feels directionless? And we'll see how the playoffs go. But if the playoffs don't go well for them, they could be in a team of disarray. Do you try to swing a move for one or maybe 2 of their guys? With all of these, like I said, appealing 1-year deals. Also, Corey Kispert, you got to start to look at him maybe as a trade piece, because he's locked in for 4 years at an affordable rate, kind of like they did with Denny Avdia last offseason. Do you turn around and then send Kispert out, given that his contract has got to be appealing to a lot of teams making making about $14 million a year for the next 4 years? That's like a bench contract almost in today's NBA. So do you wonder if now might not be the time, with some good trade assets, because obviously they have a ton of picks, 2nd-round picks, they got a bunch of them, to try to go out there and swing that trade, get yourself a big-name guy. That gives you the big-name guy, the top 5 pick this year, as long as you don't trade it, which I'm not opposed to either. If we fall at 5, we're not getting a Cooper Flagg, a Dylan Harper, an Ace Bailey, whoever that may be, I'm not necessarily opposed to trading that guy. if it means getting, some of the other guys. Now, more likely what would happen is they would end up trading some of the future draft capital, which they do have abundance of. But, what's stopping them from going to Phoenix and going, "Hey, Phoenix, remember that Bradley Beal trade? No, we're not taking him back. Don't get too excited. But what if we give you a deal that gives you all of those pick swaps back? Maybe a handful of seconds, maybe a first rounder or two of our own, and throw in a couple pieces. Could we get a Kevin Durant? Could we get a Devin Booker over here? If the team is looking to sell, Washington is a team that is very well set up to buy, or a Denver, or some of these other teams that have tried to build these squads that haven't worked. Philadelphia, maybe Miami. Miami might look to sell. Who knows? Or Orlando. Orlando just had a rough season, right? I don't think they're in the playoffs, are they? Or did they come back? Oh yeah, they came back. They're in the playoffs. Okay, never mind. Scratch Orlando. Brooklyn. Maybe Brooklyn looks to sell. There are different teams out there, different possibilities. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. Would I like to see this team finally swing a big move? Absolutely. Will it happen? To be determined. Before we take our second break, we're going to blow through some baseball really quick. We're going to talk some O's and some Nats. It was a rough week for the Orioles. 2-3. They did scrape out the second win today and a come-from-behind win in Baltimore over the Blue Jays in rough weather. So that was good. I was about ready to start lopping heads off over here. But they do go 2-3, 6-8 overall, still in it, still kind of teetering on the edge. Really need to start getting some momentum going. The bats were very inconsistent this past week. The pitching wasn't all that bad, especially the bullpen. The bullpen continues to do very well. Zach Eflin injury, the biggest news of the week. Now, he will only miss a little bit of time. It doesn't seem to be a super concerning injury. Nobody was really concerned about it, but it does leave some concerns for the rotation. Just crossing my fingers. Now, they did have a rainout yesterday, which pushed all of the starters back a day, which actually was an incredible advantage. That might actually give them some time to get Kyle Gibson ready, as he just pitched a start yesterday in the minors, or 2 days ago on Thursday. If he gets maybe a Sunday or a Monday start, if let's say he goes Monday and he gets a really good start, I would expect to see him up by Saturday, which is the next open starting spot that the team really needs to fill, and then that will bridge the gap until Eflin can return. Player of the week, relief pitcher Yennier Cano, very solid. 3 relief performances, including 1 each in the Orioles' 2 victories, including a very clutch one today. 3 innings pitched in those appearances, 0 runs allowed, and only 1 hit, so a .33 whip. Fantastic performance by Cano. Fantastic overall for the bullpen. They only gave up 1 run in 4 1/3 today in relief of Sugano. They really were very solid all week long. They continue to be one of the better bullpens in all of baseball, which is great to see. I know that was a concern entering the season. Next week, 2 home series. So they're at home, finish off. They've got 1 game against Toronto on tomorrow, and then they're off Monday, and then they get the 6-game home stretch against Cleveland and Cincinnati. 2 teams that are also kind of teetering to start the year as well. So not the worst position to be in for the O's to hopefully start to string some wins together. They've got 6 games before we see them again. I would love to see them at 500 by the time you and I are talking again. And that's going to start with tomorrow. Hopefully they can get the Blue Jays out of there with a victory. Then there are the Nationals. Phenomenal week for the Nationals. Oh my goodness. 4-2 on the week, 6-8 overall. Guys, we're gonna have to start writing some apology letters for some of the things some of Nat's Twitter was saying after 1 week. My goodness, they're actually 5-2 in their last 7 games. So overall, phenomenal performance. The bats are hot. They scored 5 or more runs in every game this week. And then the upset series win. They took 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. Wow. I think that's the only series the Dodgers have lost so far, and it's to the Nationals of all teams. So phenomenal week. Very happy to see that. Very good pitching performances. Mitchell Parker continues to do well. Had another quality start yesterday. He has 3 quality starts in 3 games so far. And the bullpen. Bullpen doing very well. Bullpen's doing up and down, but Kyle Finnegan has been shutting people down. And he has he's second in the league now with 5 saves. So that is great for him. Player of the week, easy pick, James Wood, outfielder / DH, had 4 home runs in 6 games, including 2 in the big win against the Dodgers. 8 RBI with a 318, 464, 772 slash line. Absolutely phenomenal numbers. They did something kind of interesting. They shifted him to the DH role to get Alex Call in the lineup. So they've had Alex Call, Jacob Young, and Dylan Cruz in the outfield with Wood playing DH. And that seems to be working. There are some games because that's with CJ Abrams and Keibert Ruiz. That's kind of been their 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of them. There's 6 of them. So it's kind of that 8-3 or 8-4, and that line has been producing. Keibert Ruiz, I've talked about him on the bullpen bulletin this past week, and I cannot say enough good things about his start to the season. He has been phenomenal. Same with Alex Call in his limited performances. He very easily could have been player of the week as well. So some great performances from some expected names, but some great performances from some unexpected names. And that is what is continuing to fuel the Nats. And this week, pretty good matchups at Pittsburgh. I believe it's a 4-game series against a very solid Pittsburgh team who is doing okay to start the year, kind of in the same boat as the Nats and Orioles. And then at Colorado, which Colorado is struggling to start. So this team very easily could carry this momentum that they have through this week and could possibly be looking at a 500 or better record by the next time we talk. That'll do it for the second part of our show. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we have some WNBA draft to talk about. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And welcome back to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are entering the final segment of our show, which means we're going into our draft segment. That's right, one of my favorite times of year, from beginning of April to mid-July, when we can cover every major amateur draft, basically, for the major sports teams in America. And we are covering the WNBA draft this week, which is on Monday. Fascinatingly enough, feels like the NCAA tournament just ended, and it did. So these ladies have to finish that, turn around and get ready for the draft, and then turn around in about a month afterwards and get ready for the WNBA season. So, yeah, busy time of year for them as well. So we're, of course, going to be talking about the Mystics, but in order to really talk about the draft and where they are, first we need to talk about the current state of the Mystics roster. They have had some turnover this offseason, namely, of course, with the trade for Ariel Atkins, also Elena Deladon retiring, and I believe they lost. Oh gosh, who was the one they lost? They lost somebody I really liked. Julie Van Loo, leaving in the expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries. Did I get that name right? Yes. Leaving for the Golden State Valkyries, which kind of stunk. I was kind of hoping she would stick around. But in any case, let's take a look at the roster here. So the team currently has Shakira Austin and Stephanie Dolson as their two centers, their two bigs. Then they have Aaliyah Edwards, Emily Angstler, who actually was very solid in a reserve role for the team last year, and Sika Kohn as their power forwards. This team likes to use basically a three-guard set with two bigs pretty regularly. Occasionally, I mean, usually their third guard is kind of a hybrid guard forward. That role was played by Carly Samuelson last year, but essentially it's a three-guard, two big set, and they've got Jade Melbourne, Carly Samuelson, Sug Sutton, and Brittany Sykes as their four guards. So naturally, with the type of system that this team likes to use, you usually have to have five guards that you like. You have your three starters and then two that you rotate in off of the bench. And then usually you would probably use three bigs regularly. And then there's a sixth guard and a fourth big that would kind of come into the conversation sporadically here and there. And then there's the bottom two on the roster, which if you're having to rely on the bottom two of your roster, which by the way, WNBA rosters use 12 players because A, they're 40-minute games as opposed to 48 minutes like the NBA, and they're much shorter seasons. So realistically, yes, that does make sense for them to have slightly smaller rosters. But if you're relying on your bottom two regularly, then you've got other problems going on. But I think if you look at the structure of this team, so they have 9 players, which is significant because we're going to talk about why that is significant here in a second. You look at it, you probably have your bottom two, just at a quick glance, would be Sug Sutton, who the team did not use intensely last year. And then Sika Kohn, who did play regularly for the team down the stretch, but again, the team was dealing with a bunch of injuries. Probably not somebody who you want to be relying on super regularly. Now, Emily Angstler, as that fourth forward, like I said, that sporadically comes in, maybe gets like 5 to 10 minutes a night. She makes a lot of sense. So really, the team, you could see an argument where the team is set on their bigs. And really what you're looking for is your top three guards, because Jade Melbourne and Emily Angstler kind of fit the role of those two players who you like to have, who could be useful in sporadic moments, but not people who would be considered among the top group, which would then lead you to believe that the team could possibly be targeting multiple guards with their picks. But that's the state of the roster. So now let's talk about the players that we like and the picks. So because of the Ariel Atkins trade, plus a previous trade that the team pulled off, the Mystics have the third, fourth, and sixth picks. Remember how I said we had 9 out of 12 spots filled up? Well, that's where the other 3 are going to come from. And I would pretty confidently say that on the surface, it looks like it's going to be guards all day long. But Shakira Austin does have a bit of an injury history in her young NBA career, and Aaliyah Edwards missed time with injury last year as well. So I don't know if it's necessarily a slam dunk that the team won't take a big and maybe modify their system or take a player that's kind of in between that could function as as one of the guards, but also could be considered one of the bigs, which there is one player who kind of fits that role skill set wise. But let's talk about the players in this draft. Now, the consensus number 1 overall player and the consensus top pick, it's going to be Paige Beckers out of UConn. There's no doubt. There's no reason for the for I believe it's Dallas, right? The Dallas Wings to not take her number 1 overall. That's just not happening. And there's no reason for them to trade out of that spot for a team that might happen to have 3 first-round picks to give up to pass on backers. I mean, there's really just no reason for them to do that. So 98% confident that Dallas stays at 1, takes backers, moves on. Number 2 is Seattle, which is interesting because they just made the playoffs. And they could go a number of different directions. They're another team that has had a lot of roster turnover. So I can't really slot any one particular player in there. So I think we can talk about numerous players, starting with probably one of the most intriguing ones. There's only a couple of true bigs that I would be okay with, and that would be Dominique Belonga out of France and then Kiki Iriafen out of USC. Now, Malonga's really interesting. She's a 6'6" center with apparently a very varied skill set. Actually, the skill set kind of reminds me a little bit of Stephanie Dolson, the veteran big for the Mystics, and it might make a lot of sense for Malonga to come to DC to study under the tutelage of a player like Dolson. Now, this pick works in a variety of ways, and let me explain why. With all of the Malonga's only 19, so she will probably not be a heavy contributor year 1. She's going to have to learn the system. She's going to have to learn the league. She's going to be younger than everybody by a few years, right? So not an immediate contributor, but a very intriguing draft and stash for a year or 2 potential, and then to learn behind someone like Stephanie Dolson, and especially since the team has on the roster Dolson, Austin, and Edwards. And if one of them get injured, they've shown that they have no problem turning to Angstler and Cone to fill up the minutes. So that would be a very intriguing pick. It would require Seattle to pass on her for somebody like Aria Finn or maybe one of the other players in this draft, but very intriguing, and honestly would not mind that selection. Then there's Iriafen, who's coming out of USC. Very good player, efficient offensively. Defense still needs to grow a little bit. Don't know if she would be my favorite, so I'm kind of crossing my fingers that Seattle goes ahead and takes her at 2, and then we kind of have our pick as the rest of the guys. I think of all of the top players who we're going to review, and that's the last true big that we are going to discuss. I think she was probably my least favorite fit. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't welcome her with open arms, but to me, she basically cancels out Aaliyah Edwards, who they just took last year. Like they're very similar skill set wise. So I don't think that pick makes a ton of sense to them. So again, crossing my fingers that Seattle takes Iriafen at 2. Then there is a slew of very intriguing prospects. There's Anicia Moro out of LSU, who's a phenomenal rebounder, excellent defender, okay shooter, but she doesn't have great range. She's still working on the 3. She reminds me a lot of Angel Reese, who came out of LSU last year, but she's probably a little bit better shooter than Reese is. The problem is that Reese is 6'3", so the rebounding and defensive aspect, she can carry that to the league. Moro's only 6'1". So I don't know if her skill set will translate as efficiently, but you can't argue with somebody who averaged 14 rebounds and multiple steals and blocks a game. So as somebody who could be a hybrid guard forward, would not object to that particularly. Sonia Citron, guard out of Notre Dame. Very good, versatile skill set, does it on both ends of the floor. She would be a good guard to add to the system. Same with Sania Rivers out of NC State. Kind of a hybrid point guard wing, needs to develop into one or the other there. Cheyenne Sellers out of Maryland, a very intriguing prospect, not only because, of course, from Maryland, but taller than your typical guard, but with a guard skill set. So it'd be interesting to see how teams view her. She wasn't really used as that role until last season, where she did pretty well. There's also Isaiah James from NC State and Georgia Amore from Kentucky. Both have, neither one are perfect prospect. Amore very short at 5'6". So that could give her some struggles against some of the bigger guards that are starting to come into the league. And Isaiah James out of NC State, another one who's a little bit undersized. Her skill set would be that of a wing, but she's got point guard size. It would be the equivalent of somebody like Bronny James coming in and trying to be a small forward in the NBA. There's also Haley Van Lith, who's going to get lots of discussion as she kind of bounced around the NCAA. But hey, she showed out in the NCAA tournament, and she has a very good skill set. So as another guard option, that makes sense. So lots of good guard pieces available for the Mystics to fill their needs. I believe I talked about Sanaya Rivers from NC State. And then there's Michaela Timpson from Florida State, who is is kind of similar to Morrow. She wasn't as productive, and her skill set, again, does not necessarily match her size. She's a little bit bigger at 6'2", but she, great rebounder, very good defender. If basically between her and Morrow, who I would expect both to be available for the Mystics if they wanted either or, I would prefer Morrow. But I certainly would not object to Timpson either. So kind of the theme of the WNBA draft is once you get past Paige Beckers there at the top, there's a lot of muddled and a lot of different pieces that could go a lot of different ways. And I think there's plenty of guard help. I didn't talk about all of the bigs because, like I said, I don't think the Mystics are going to target bigs with maybe more than one pick, and if they were, I would hope it would be Malonga. Maybe we could also get lucky, and if we go guard or Morrow and Citron at 3 and 4, then we could kind of go Golden State into to take Haley Van Lith or Sanaya Rivers or Cheyenne Sellers with that 6th pick. So lots of good options. Not one that screams, oh my God, I want to have them. Although, man, would I really be intrigued at the prospect of adding Dominique Malonga to this team. And like I said, if it's Beckers 1, Area Finn at 2, I would love to go with Malonga. And then maybe they go with Morrow and one of Citron or Van Lith with the other pick. That's probably the way I would do it. Or like I said, maybe you go with a Cheyenne Sellers or an Isaiah James or a Georgia Amore. Could go a lot of different ways. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what 3 pieces the Mystics are going to add to finish out their roster. Doesn't necessarily mean they're done yet either, because a lot of the remaining pieces like Suggs Dutton and Sika Cone are not on guaranteed contracts. So it's possible that the team could move off of them, slot Malonga maybe as one of the bottom 2, and go after another piece. Maybe there's some lingering free agent, or if there's a trade possible that they could try to swing a move for a better known player. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you all for tuning in. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky that's on a whole other planet. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Also, Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great but donates to and supports mental health research. Use code IESR to get 15% off of your purchase there. Seal the Deal Wax Stamps by Cecilia B, the perfect touch for any special occasion. Check them out on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps. And our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com. Use promo code IESR to get 10% off. If you have not done so already, please follow us on social media, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Do go check out the website, iesportsradio.com, where you'll find our blog, our merchandise, our Hall of Fame, our show pages, and so much more. Follow yours truly at letswine_ISR. And of course, if you are a supporter of the show, if you really like the show or any of the shows here on the network, do go to the Supporters Club. Just $5 a month get you some great perks. And of course, remember this show's main message, which is please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media posts regarding this topic is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. We will be back next week. We'll move on from the Wizards. The Wizards are gone. We'll be able to talk about some other sports. Obviously, we'll have Caps hockey to keep talking about. We'll still have baseball, and we'll probably get into some MLS. And, of course, we got to review the WNBA draft and get ready for the NFL draft, which is the week after next. You know I'm excited for that. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.